So you select the plan, you're there, you're ready to go, and you said you started kind of working on the design and iterating on that. Was there, maybe I'd like to ask on the sort of design portion of this project, because you built many websites for clients, but never an e-commerce site. What were the considerations from a design or UX point of view? I mean, because essentially, you're not, you could say that you're building a product, right? A website is a product too, but it's different in ways in which, and I know you at Mural have a lot of contact with the monetization team, and how that sort of payment flow works for apps. So like there's stuff to consider. Is that everything just sort of baked in from the Webflow e-commerce as to like, these are the steps and there's not many like big UX considerations, or did you have to
so
put your like product
were...
designer hat on?
I always have my product designer hat on and my UX designer hat on at all times, in all things. But to go back to your question, a lot of those things in Webflow are pretty cut and dry. They give you pre-laid out pages for checkout, for PayPal checkout, for order confirmation. And these pages are pretty much like cookie cutter ready to go if you wanted to just launch them. And that's both a good thing and a not so good thing, which we could talk about in a little bit. You, depending on which page you're on, the elements menu on the left, and I can go ahead and share a little bit about what that looks like. The elements panel on the left will have new sections dedicated to e-commerce, right? So for example, if you're looking at the checkout page, you get this new checkout page section where you can drag and drop checkout page elements, things like discounts or order summary, order items. And so that's one of the things that I did not necessarily know about coming into building a new e-commerce layout. But essentially, taking it back to your question about design and designing the experience, there were certainly things that we did do in planning to quote unquote design the checkout experience. But at the end of the day, I sort of had to work around what Webflow was giving us. They give you these blocks, they give you the built-in error messages. And this layout with stuff on the left and a sticky column on the right was more or less what was here before, just skinned to be the brand.
Okay.
But
even the stickiness was there. So it was like everything was.
It was. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. That's interesting. It's like they're trying, because I know. Well, I don't know in the US. What's the market there of like online shopping, sort of e-commerce platforms? Because I know in Argentina we have like very specific products that are like Webflow, but it's just for e-commerce websites, right? It's like a service that builds e-commerce websites, and you just connect your stuff. So I guess there's things like that in the US, right? And those are like every time you go to a shop, like an Instagram shop, it's like every shop is the same because they're using this same service. And like you say, it's not great, but also I always know what I'm gonna get when I go into one of these Instagram shops, because everyone's using the same service and it's the same interface.
Yeah, I think it's a very saturated market, right? There are a lot of tools that exist for building e-commerce platforms, and that's not a bad thing, because the patterns are being refined over time by users and by these products to get to a place where things are expected. You have you provide some information, you give your email, your name, whatever, you give your payment information, and maybe you have like a modern method of payment like PayPal, Apple Pay, what have you. They confirm what your order items are, and that's it. I mean, if we were to build something like this from the ground up, think of all the UX implications.
Yeah.
Think of all the things that you have to consider. Even things like
even error message. Yeah, I was. Oh man, we've worked together enough. Yes.
Yeah.
Even I was just thinking about that. It's like I wouldn't know what are the errors of an e-commerce website. I would have to read about it and try to learn. But now they already know. So it's like you can probably customize. I can see that the little pencil, you can customize the the voice of your brand, but that's really all you get, right?
Yeah, and I think that it sort of takes me back to this idea of like selecting Webflow e-commerce for your platform of choice for a shop, right? The reason that most folks would select Webflow e-commerce is because it gives you bespoke control to build an extension of your brand, right? Which is one of the reasons why I think my client was so excited to leverage Webflow e-commerce, was because we could make the shop look like the rest of the website seamlessly, as opposed to having a third party link where you just, click a CTA and it takes you to a new tab that, doesn't look anything like the experience you've come from. So if you're building a brand,
or you would have to work super hard to like make it look like it, or
exactly.
you probably couldn't on some places. So it makes sense to just use the same sort of native functionality.